2 for 1.
Double down. Yes. 3 down.
2 for 1.
Triple down.
2 for 1.
I need a hunter like you with the red jack.
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Diaslayers, and in this video, we're going to discuss my top 5 snipers in PvP that currently do or just might be able to one-shot supers come the Shadowkeep DLC, and I just gotta say that is so incredibly exciting. Finally, we're getting back to our roots from back in the days of Destiny 1, where snipers could potentially one-shot supers, and so we're gonna find out how all these things can do that in just a couple of seconds. But before I do so, you have to understand a couple of key things about this entire video as a whole. Number 1. This list was comprised of sniper rifles, both legendary and exotic, that currently are or potentially will be able to one-shot supers in the most effective manner or as easily as possible with the fewest amount of actions. In correlation with this, I also took into account as to how easy or as to how difficult that each one of these sniper rifles was to attain, as well as to how often or as to how frequently that these things might just be able to one-shot supers, and a wide variety of supers at that. Number 2. Every single one of the base stats that you guys are about to see throughout this entire video is done with light.gg. So if you happen to use a different type of API source, say for example Destiny Item Manager, then there might be a little bit of a discrepancy between those two sources, so that's just something to keep in mind. And hearing all of this, the only thing left to do is to simply sit back, relax, eviscerate that notification button, and let's jump right into the video. Arriving in the number 5 spot is a sniper rifle that can only be obtained in the Last Wish raid, and it's called the Supremacy. As much as I wish, pun intended my friends, that this thing could be obtained through other means, alas it can't. And so if you happen to have some very good luck and some really good RNG, this thing just might be able to one-shot supers, and the way in which it can do so is by one particular perk, and that's called Kill Clip. Now we're going to get into that perk in just a couple of seconds, but before I do so, I just want to show you the role that I happen to have, and if you ask me, it's a god roll, because this thing right here has Kill Clip, Snapshot, Flared Magwell, Hammerforged Rifling, a Stability Masterwork, and a Targeting Adjuster mod. The reason why I love this thing so unbelievably much is because this right here has some great perk synergy. First of all, being in Snapshot, as that's going to give me an almost instantaneous ADS speed. But then when you follow this with say something like Flared Magwell, that's going to give me an increased reload speed. And of course, that's then going to help proc Kill Clip that much faster, and maybe, just so maybe when the DLC drops come Shadowkeep, Kill Clip might be able to one-shot supers. With Kill Clip procced, this Supremacy Sniper can do 434 points of damage, but if you don't happen to have that perk active, then it's only going to do 326 points of damage per crit and 101 per body. Now one of the huge advantages to using the Supremacy is that this thing has a very fast rate of fire at 140 rounds per minute, and that then means that if you so happen to get 2 body shots, it's then going to have a body shot TTK at 0.43 seconds. That, my friends, is extremely fast and one of the faster TTKs in the game. But even so, I know that I've said a lot of information in a very short amount of time, and so just so that we don't forget everything that I've just said, here's all the weapons PvP stats right there on screen. Once again, with Kill Clip procced, this thing's dealing 434 points of damage per crit. But is it likely that you're actually going to get that perk to proc? Maybe, maybe not. And if I'm being 110% honest, the odds of you being able to get 1 kill, then reload, and then finally be able to get the 2nd kill on a potential super that's coming at you is very, very low. But nonetheless, this thing can still do this one-shot potential come the Shadowkeep DLC, and thus, it has to be listed in this number 5 spot. But something else that might change your mind about this particular sniper rifle is the weapons-based stats. And so as you guys can see from right there, here's all the weapons-based stats with the perks that I happen to have. Of all these stats, the ones that you want to pay attention to here is the weapons range at 48 out of 100, its stability factor at 59 out of 100, followed by its handling, which is extremely high at 71, and the weapon's aim assistance, which is spectacular at 77 out of 100. With the weapon's mediocre range, that's going to give you some decent bullet magnetism, yet it won't be the best. Yet at the same time, it's got a really good aim assistance that's definitely going to allow you to hit more critical headshots. all while having a very good stability factor, allowing you to take more flinch. However, the weapon stat that's overlooked significantly is that handling speed at 71. Now, although I'm not going to go into it now, just know that there are some other perks that you can have that might significantly increase this overall handling speed, and we're going to cover that in the next weapon. But having said that, I believe that this Supremacy is extremely snappy and it can be used in a wide variety of engagements. You can use it aggressively, you can use it passively, you can use it somewhere in between. And no matter which kind of playstyle that you guys happen to have, just know that this Supremacy is definitely going to rain critical headshots 24/7, saying boom, headshot. Appearing in the number 4 spot is a sniper rifle that can be obtained in one of multiple ways, and it just so happens to be called the Twilight Oath. As if being conjured from our dreams and being sent from the heavens above, this Twilight Oath can be obtained primarily through the Dreaming City, and this can be done say through weekly activities, or it can be done through the Blind Well, or it can even be done through the dungeon, aka the Shadow Throne. In grinding for the weapon through this specific means, I would highly recommend that you guys try and get the Curator role on this beauty. That's because the Curator role is the only version of the weapon that can have snapshot and box breathing. Now I'll get to what box breathing does in just a couple of seconds, but for now, just understand that I believe that this is the only way in which you can get this Curator role is through the Dreaming City and those Dreaming City activities. But if you've had any luck in something like say the Menagerie and getting that exact same Curator role, then by all means, please let me know down in the comment section below, because if that's the case, then that's going to help out tons and tons of Guardians get this fantastic beauty. However, for those of you that don't happen to have that specific god role, then what I would recommend for you is to try and do this in the Menagerie, and the way in which you can do so is by this rune combination right there on screen. What you may or may not notice is that I'm recommending that you use a handling masterwork. This is all going to make sense in just a couple of seconds, but before I go any further, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what kind of role should I happen to look for if I can't get Snapshot on this beauty, since Snapshot is the only type of perk that can roll for this thing in the Curator version of it. Yeah, other roles are possible, so what exactly should I be looking for? To you, my friends, I say, you should be looking for almost the exact same role that I happen to have, and you guys can see that right there on screen. Because this beauty happens to have box breathing, opening shot, tactical mag, fluted barrel, a handling masterwork, and a targeting adjuster mod. Going back to what box breathing does, essentially what that perk is going to allow the weapon to do is have increased damage after aiming down sights for a short duration, and to be precise, that duration is 1.5 seconds. As soon as you're aiming down sights for that long, you're then going to have an increased damage bullet that can do for this Twilight Oath 425 points of damage per critical headshot. Come the Shadowkeep DLC, that might be able to one-shot supers, and I don't think that's going to be able to one-shot all supers, but it's certainly going to be able to do a couple, at least that's what I'm guessing. And so for you, you probably want to be able to get that critical headshot that much more frequently, and that's why opening shot is fantastic, because that perk is not only going to increase the weapon's effective range, but it's also going to increase the weapon's accuracy, thus implying that you're going to be able to get that critical headshot that much more consistently. And understanding this glorious and marvelous and wonderful relationship between box breathing and opening shot, what I also want you guys to know is that this thing is in the exact same archetype as that of the Supremacy. And so as I show you guys these PvP stats, it's no surprise that they are almost identical in every way, shape, and form, except for the fact that when this thing happens to have box breathing active, it's thus doing that critical damage output at once again 425 per crit. Now if you recall, earlier I said that on the Supremacy, you might not have to have snapshot sights in that beauty, and that's because the Supremacy, along with the Twilight Oath, and actually is the case for this particular role that I happen to have, can roll with fluted barrel. And so when this is the case, fluted barrel is going to increase this weapon's handling speed by plus 15. Taking one step back, I want you to recall that with the Menagerie, this Twilight Oath, you can control that masterwork. And this is once again why I want you to have a handling masterwork on this thing, because fluted barrel and this handling masterwork can increase the weapon's overall effective handling speed by plus 25. I want you to pay attention to three things here, and that is the weapon's handling speed at a base of 68, but plus that 25, it's then going to be at 93 out of 100. 93, my friends. That means that this handling speed is almost identical to what that of Snapshot is, or at least very similar to it. It might just be ever so slightly slower, but nonetheless, that then means that this thing can still have box breathing and can also have opening shot, making this very consistent, very accurate, and potentially one-shot supers. And having said that, does this thing still need snapshot sights along with the Supremacy? Maybe, maybe not. And I'll certainly leave that up to you guys, and I can't wait to hear what you think about that down in the comment section below. But going back to the weapon's base stats, its zoom factor is at 35. That low zoom factor is the lowest zoom factor out of all sniper rifles in the entire game, and the one that's actually tied for in this respect is the Revoker. And also this means that it can do marvelous in a very aggressive playstyle, which you all know is the exact playstyle that I happen to have. For those of you that like to play in a very similar playstyle, I think that this Twilight Oath might just be the best sniper for you. And when you couple that with the fact that it might be able to one-shot supers come the Shadowkeep DLC, oh boy, I got a feeling that we're going to have some awesome cooking lessons up in here, because enemy guardians are going to be a little bit salty. Inserting itself in the number 3 spot is an exotic sniper which you can all get by doing the mysterious box quest that came within the Black Armory DLC, and it's called the Izangai's Burden. Now I'm not going to go into all the quest steps and how you specifically get the weapon, but just know that you have to do all the forges and do some what these mysterious boxes are, along with those keys that you get from each one of those places. And so in understanding that, it's a little bit of a grind to get the weapon, but nonetheless, you can all still get it in a fairly good amount of time. As with all exotics in Destiny 2, they usually have one particular trait or one particular perk that is incredibly unique, and the same thing goes for this Izangai's Burden. And so in order for us to see this, we have to inspect the weapon. In doing so, you can tell that it's got composite stock, outlaw, accurized rounds, chamber compensator, and honed edge. Honed edge is the weapon's exotic perk, and states that Holy Reload consumes the magazine and loads a round with additional range and damage. Furthermore, the weapon's catalyst increases the weapon's damage bonus of honed edge when 4 bullets are consumed. This then leads me into my next point, and so in taking one step back, honed edge can not only be obtained by doing say 4 bullets in the magazine, but it can also be done by 3 and 2 bullets. And so this is very important to note, because with this weapon, it cannot one-shot any guardian when you happen to have honed edge times 2 or honed edge times 3 via body shots. On the flip side of this though, when you consume 4 rounds with or without the catalyst, this weapon can one-shot any guardian in the game currently as is. But even with the weapon's catalyst active and you happen to have honed edge times 4, you cannot one-shot body shot a single super in this entire game right now. Come Shadowkeep, this might change and completely revolutionize the way in which this weapon is utilized in PvP. And so to you I say, I would highly recommend that you guys try and get this thing, because if you can happen to have this weapon do one shot via body shot on any super, oh my gosh, that my friends is mind-boggling and simply outstanding and outrageous, so much to the point that I have to say to you that this is an absolute must to get. And having said that, I also want you guys to know that this thing is doing 394 points of damage per crit and 131 points of damage per body. And so if you happen to land say 2 body shots, that's then going to give the Izangai's Burden a body shot TTK at 0.67 seconds. That right there is very fast, and is actually the exact same optimal time to kill that the current Recluse has without Master of Arms procced. And so to you I then say, okay, well, what about this weapon doing critical headshots when honed edge times 2, times 3, and times 4 is really being done? Well, Diaslayers, I got some awesome news, and that's because as soon as you happen to have honed edge times 2, I repeat, honed edge times 2, this Izangai's Burden can currently one-shot any super in the entire game, and it can do so by doing 786 points of damage on regular guardians, but then of course, that's then going to be reduced when you actually face a super, and it's going to be somewhere around say 300 or 350, and it just depends on the super that you're facing. As everyone inspects the PvP stats that I'm putting up there right now on screen, what I also want you to know is that the same thing holds true for honed edge times 3 and honed edge times 4 if you're getting those critical headshots. And so obviously that then means that can one-shot supers. But the way in which you have to do so is of course reloading the entire bullet back into the magazine, and this thus then takes time. Are you going to actually have enough time to do this? Maybe, maybe not. And it really just going to depend on the situation that you guys happen to find yourself in. But nonetheless, that then still allows the weapon to one-shot supers, and that alone allows the weapon to be in this number 3 spot. But something else that you must comprehend about this Izangai's Burden is its base stats, and you guys can see those right there on screen. It's got a decent range stat at 63 out of 100 with some really good bullet magnetism. But in my view, something that's much more significant than this is the weapon's handling speed only at 52, and as you all know, that then determines as to how fast that we can ADS. Having that kind of handling speed is a big negative, but even so, you can't take away from the fact that this Izangai's Burden can certainly one-shot supers with only having 2 bullets in the magazine via Honed Edge, and maybe come the Shadowkeep DLC, it might be able to one-shot body shot any super if you already happen to have the weapon's catalyst, and when this is the outcome, oh my goodness gracious, you're going to be putting one giant black hole into the enemy guardians, making them go up into oblivion, saying adios, bye-bye. Making itself known in the number 2 spot is a sniper rifle that counts as a Crucible Pinnacle reward, and it's called the Revoker. I know that many of you want to get your hands on this beauty ASAP, and the way in which you do so is by starting the quest called In Your Sights, and you can pick it up from Lord Shaxx. As with all Pinnacle rewards, these types of weapons always have a very unique perk, and so for the Revoker, it's no exception. And so as we inspect this thing, we can tell that it's got Reversal of Fortune, which we'll come back to in a second. It's also got Snapshot Sights, Accurate Rounds, Extended Barrel, a Handling Masterwork, and a Backup Mag Mod. Right off the bat, we know that Snapshot Sights is going to give us that almost instantaneous ADS speed. But as far as Reversal of Fortune goes, it states that missing a shot returns the bullet back to the magazine after a short duration. Some of you might be thinking that that perk is the best perk that you could possibly ask for on any sniper rifle, and then there's others that might think that that perk is the worst perk that you could possibly ask for and is the definition of Muff Cabbage shenanigans. No matter where you guys fall on this spectrum, no one can deny that this thing right here is an aggressive frame sniper, and that means that it's then going to do 433 points of damage per crit and 158 per body. I have no doubt that many of us try to land as many critical headshots as we possibly can to get that instantaneous TTK. But of course, I know that we're going to land body shots every now and then, and so if you happen to land 2 body shots, this weapon's body shot TTK is then going to be at precisely 0.83 seconds. As I put all those PvP values that I've just said right there on screen, the most notable thing that I want you to pay attention to here is once again the crit damage, because that's doing 433. And so is this going to down supers kind of Shadowkeep DLC? I think it certainly is going to have a very high probability. And it might not do all the supers, but it's certainly going to do a couple of them. And that's fantastic because this then means that the Revoker is going to become much more viable than what it currently is. Right now what we're seeing in PvP is a lot of snipers that happen to have that double body shot potential that can do so very quickly, like the Supremacy and the Twilight Oath, at that body shot TTK value of 0.43 seconds, because they can be that quick and still getting those body shots. But for this overall Revoker, that currently isn't the case, and so there really isn't any other type of incentive to actually use this thing unless you happen to miss a headshot or body shot and thus return that bullet back into the magazine. Come the Shadowkeep DLC, this thing might be exceptional for facing off against full health supers, and that's because all it needs is that fast ADS time, which it already has with Snapshot Sights, and then boom, just like that, it's going to get that critical headshot, doing probably enough damage to down almost every single super, but who knows? We don't actually know for sure, and we're just going to have to wait until the DLC drops, but note that this thing is certainly on my radar, and so it has to be on yours as well. On top of this, something else that I think that's really going to help this weapon out, at least in terms of its overall effectiveness on supers, is the weapon's base stats. And as you guys see those right there, the most notable one that's first of all going to come off the page is the weapon's base range stat at 80 plus an additional 20 from the weapon's perks, and that then equates to 100 out of 100 for a base range stat. This then means to you that you might not have to have that reticle directly on the enemy's noggin if you want to be able to get that kill, and that's because once again, bullet magnetism is allowing the weapon, or rather I should say the bullet, to quote-unquote curve and thus still obtain that critical headshot. Only time will tell for sure as to whether or not this thing is going to be able to one-shot many supers, all supers, or just a few supers. But no matter how that you look at this Revoker is certainly going to annihilate, decimate, and eradicate every single Guardian's path, and that also just might include many supers saying no, not today. At long last, we have finally reached our number 1 spot. The sniper rifle making its debut is one that is loved by many Guardians across the spectrum, and as its name suggests, It's called the Beloved. Not only can this thing one-shot supers right now in this game, but come the Shadowkeep DLC, it might potentially be able to one-shot any super, and that right there is mind-boggling. I mean, I can't tell you how awesome that really is. Before we get into all that spicy jazz, what you guys have got to understand is how to get this thing via the Menagerie. And so the one that I'm recommending that you guys use is the Chalice Runes, as you can see from right there on screen. What you're probably noticing is that I'm recommending a range masterwork, and the reason as to why this is will make sense in just a few short seconds, my friends. But despite that, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what exactly is the role that you happen to have on this amazing weapon? As you guys can see from right there, this thing's got box breathing with snapshot sights, accurate rounds, full bore, a handling masterwork, and a spring grip mod. Now for those of you that may or may not know, this Beloved is actually in the exact same archetype as the Izangi's Burden, and so that then means that its critical damage output is going to do 394 per crit and 131 per body. But as you also know, this thing happens to have box breathing, and so when box breathing is active, after 1.5 seconds of aiming down sights, its critical damage is doing 524 points of damage. I mean, my friends, that is crazy, especially because this thing right here is a legendary weapon. And I don't know about you, but when you combine this with the fact that it can have snapshot on top of that, it's gonna be some great synergy that you just simply can't find on any other sniper rifle. That 524 points of damage per crit when box breathing is active can already one-shot many supers, such as, for example, a Night Stalker within their Spectral Blades, and the list goes on. Just so that we don't forget everything that I've said, I put all the information right there on screen in the weapon's PvP stats. And the other thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that this thing's body shot time to kill is at 0.67 seconds, which once again is the exact same thing as the Recluse without Master of Arms procced. Is it frowned upon to land 2 body shots? To some maybe yes, to some maybe no. And to be honest with you, it really doesn't matter, because what this thing is trying to do is just trying to land as many shots as possible. And the way in which it can do so is by increasing the weapon's overall effective range. The reason why I wanted you guys to have that range masterwork is because when you couple this with, say, something like accurized rounds and full bore, my goodness, that range factor is going to be going up by plus 35. And so when you couple this with the weapon's base range already at 55, that's then going to be at freaking 90. I'll say it again, 90 out of 100 for the weapon's base range stat. And so that right there, in conjunction with something like, say, snapshot sights as well as box breathing, is going to give the weapon a very good overall bullet magnetism that can still one-shot many supers right now in the game, and come Shadowkeep, it might be even all supers. As I put all the weapons base stats up there right now, what you'll notice is that even though I don't happen to have that plus 35 in range, I still have plus 25. And the reason why I don't have that 35 is because I have a handling masterwork instead of a range masterwork. When you take into account these base stats, you realize that the weapon's bullet magnetism is going to be skyrocketing through the roof. And then when you couple this with its one-shotting potential against supers, I think it's safe to say that this thing has not only earned but deserves its #1 spot. It's going to be hated by enemy guardians and beloved by you, all while at the same time saying, surprise, Chucky gotcha. Of course, we can't have a top 5 list, at least without having a couple honorable mentions. And if you were to ask me, the sniper rifles that make this category is any aggressive frame sniper, because just like the Revoker, those things are all going to be doing 433 points of damage per crit. This includes a buy the Fox, it includes a Show of the Force, and many other sniper rifles that are in this exact same category. And so if you happen to have a roll on one of those that might just do very good in PvP, then without hesitation, I would certainly take that bad boy into the Crucible come the Shadowkeep DLC. I'm just spitballing here, but we might even have another sniper in the brand new content that could potentially make all these snipers that I've just said obsolete. Who knows what can happen, and so I'm really excited to see what this new DLC holds, but I can't wait to see exactly what you guys gotta say, since you all know that your opinions are going to be respected, and that is something that I can guarantee. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share a comment like on social media, because you are the greatest. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, Diaslayers. As always, GG, TNT.